So if we look at the rural sector, and if we look at access towards digital tools and technology, that brings me to a question in terms of, while we are moving towards digital, and definitely that is required, what really needs to fundamentally change, and what are some of those initiatives in order for it to be, again, not be a digital divide, but rather an enabler? Because we all know that what will really make us successful, and the students at large is going to be maximizing it, and is going to be increasing access towards that. So I'll I'll point that question to Payal. Your thoughts and views on that. You've worked across South Asia, and you do you would have seen different adoption rates when it comes to technology and digital tools, and also in terms of the education frameworks across these regions. While I would agree that there is a great need across the globe, but if we were to talk about the Indian context here, what are some of your thoughts in terms of increasing that, and in terms of making those outcomes really significant, considering a larger base of the pyramid?
Right. Thank you, Dipali. Good evening to my fellow panelists. And quite an intriguing question that. So I'm sort of going to break it into two parts. Part one being a quick introduction that Robotics India so far has educated 20,000 children from pan-India, but also from the rural and government school sector on coding, robotics, AI. We're talking about children where not only there is a clear digital divide, but we're also talking about dearth of computers, electricity, unheard of Wi-Fi, and a single device. Now, this gave us hope that if it can be implemented in the deep dive geographic pockets of a country as large as ours, it gave us far more hope that there can be a blanket implementation of technology, future skills in early education. When we talk about Southeast Asia, a quick fun example here is so Robotics India. Winners of Robotics India Championship participate in Robotics Asia, which takes place in Shanghai. And then the winners ultimately go to Robotics International. So a part of what we do is giving the children a platform to showcase their innovative talents, not only in India, but globally, and giving them industry and academia collaboration. In order to do this, we realized that in 2018, 2019, there were only rich kids and children from the private sector which were participating. Therefore, we launched an initiative called Robotics for Rural, wherein these 20,000 children I spoke about are a part of that plan, purely trained in an all-digital model in the pandemic era. Now, what we saw in Shanghai is there were children from the age of 4 to 8. And when I say children, there was like a sea of these kids, age 4 to 8, in two segments. 5,000 children building projects via Lego robots, and another 3,000 working on a line follower. And I'm looking at them going, these are 4 to 8. That's when the education minister of China said to me that, we don't have a 100-year plan, we have an 800-year plan. Computational thinking begins in our schools at the age of 3.5. And then that brought me back to what we do in Finland and Estonia. As a former spokesperson for Ministry of Education of Estonia to India, we worked on a lot of bilateral ties for cybersecurity, blockchain, AI, to only realize that there are bachelor's and master's courses, but then there's a huge gap and a limbo for early childhood education. When we spoke to the teaching fraternity there, we found out that coding and robotics was taught to children at the age of 6. Now, when we got to blend this together with the NEP 2020, which I'm sure we'll bring up in our later discussion as well, is that we would want to teach an 8-year-old in India as well computational thinking along with coding and robotics, because there are easy means to do so. And thanks to the pandemic, it's made everything very accessible. It's yet to be democratized in terms of costing, but it's really accessible. So, the 2 pointers, from my end would be, if we can incorporate technology in everyday teaching learning processes, not just for children, but for teachers as well, in terms of pedagogy and e-learning. Point number 2, how we can incorporate the STEAM module, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, for learning in order to train the students in future skills, because that's the only point, according to me, which will bridge the future education to employability gap.
Wonderful. Thank you, Payal, for those wonderful, great points. You mentioned that technology will be that enabler, and also integrating STEAM education into the learning methodologies. You also mentioned starting early, and you gave some great examples of across the globe how the thinking has been, and somewhere that's what we need to tune ourselves to. Now that brings me to an interesting point here, which is on, while yes, technology definitely, and with the pandemic, it has enhanced that, and it is absolutely going to be, while it creates a digital divide right now, but it is also going to be that something that will give us higher access. When we even talk about rural sector, it will in fact enable access. The point I have here, and I would, rather a question for Guy, is, children have a different way of absorbing information, and they're used to something else altogether. And the whole concept around even national education policy has been around experiential learning, collaborative learning, tinkering with new technologies. With the pandemic coming in, and with a sense of that those spaces being taken away from children, and everything shifting to a technology and to digital formats, what can we do, and what are some of those initiatives that really need to be put in place so that learning is also fun, learning is engaging for children, and it is impactful for them, and hence the outcomes will be impactful? So what according to you are some of those initiatives?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and hello to everyone. So at NAC, we built a platform of smart games that use behavioral neuroscience and artificial intelligence and game theory to decode, discover, and understand what is the unique potential that is hidden in every person. And I say hidden because all of us, myself, you guys, the audience, kids, adults, and others, we are constantly trying to figure out what can we do, what are we good at, and we don't know the answers as individuals. Our parents or siblings or mentors or teachers most often are very wrong about it, and we hear all those stories about young kids or others that are told at some point in their life or their career or their education, or nothing is going to come out of you, or don't try, or go and work as X and don't even aspire to become Y. And only to be kind of for those people who persevere to defy kind of that conventional wisdom and conventional advice. So we need better tools to help people figure this out. And Walt Disney, who created fantastic, entertaining, and captivating experiences, very wisely said that kids and adults are just the same. Everyone wants to have fun. Everyone wants to be entertained. So my point is not just about kids. It's not just about K-12. It's also about college students. It's about people in skill development programs. It's about adults working at companies, or entrepreneurs, or managers, or leaders. This is true for everyone. So if you think about kind of how people are spending time on Netflix, they are absorbed by the experience, right? If you think about people spending time on Fortnite, they are absorbed by that experience. So digital engagement, digital experience is very powerful, extremely powerful. And up until now, it's been used primarily for entertainment, for content consumption. It hasn't been used in a smart way to change the trajectory of education to career on a mass scale. So when you add an engagement, entertainment component, you actually are shifting strategically that experience altogether. And that goes, Deepali, back to your point about adoption. So adoption is not a top-down thing. And adoption can never happen top-down, that someone comes and say, oh, we want you to do X or Y. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get the numbers. You're not going to get the lift. You're not going to get the inflection point. Adoption has to be grassroots, bottom up, because people want to engage, right? And I can tell you that for now, we at NAC, as a startup, we had over almost 2 million people come and play our games and get the results and impact and the insight, not because we do marketing and not because we push a product, not at all. They just go and download because they hear about it, and then they write us, oh, the games are fantastic, they are fun. They keep them at the edge of their seat. So gaming is very powerful, and gaming can empower people in ways that were never possible before.
Thank you, Guy. And I think, you know, one thing you said, I completely echo that and resonate with that, that, you know, there are ways and means of making this fun for children, and there cannot be a top down with children. There just can't be. I mean, you could think about it in any other setting, but
not
I don't
think adults, I would say.
Yeah,
even
I mean,
don't respond well to top-down mandates.
Absolutely. And when you say gamification, and you've worked a lot in that space, and you know, NAC is purely working towards that. In Atal Tinkering Labs, so with Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog, these labs, we came up with these virtual modules and learning or tinkering from home, as we called it, while the pandemic had hit us, and we thought, how do we really make this accessible for children when they're taken away from those maker spaces? And I'm giving an example here of, you know, the multiple modules we created, right from IoT to AI to robotics to 3D, multiple things. We created a virtual version of those, and including coding and gamification. And I'm giving this example because the kind of response we saw towards the gamification module and game building platform that we created for them was overwhelming, the kind of interest. And this was not pushed out. This, like you said, you can't force adoption in numbers. You know, this was really coming from a pull factor, which made us realize that this whole concept of learning virtually is fine, but how do you make it more engaging and more fun is going to be the key to really, in fact, not just now, but in the future also, it is going to be the key towards impactful learning and towards getting the right outcomes out of the K-12 education and really ensuring they're future ready, these children. Now, I'll come to TR. TR, we talked about various initiatives, be it technology, be it starting early, be it making it fun and engaging, some of these things that we need to do. What are your thoughts on what additionally should be done in order to make some initiatives in the skilling sector to be able to get the maximum benefit out of this K-12 education and impact out of it?
Oh, great question. So, first of all, we consume a lot of people who, I guess, all the startups here kind of produce. So we run a drone company called Skylark Drones. We build drone software and platform, right? So some of the things on K-12 itself, right? Point to me, one element is the fact that, like you rightly point out very early in the talk, right? About what sort of learning that are we giving our children if we are going to teach them only content, right? So one of the things along with gamification and things like that is also to understand how we're going to teach the skill of learning, and that itself is, point to me, a large skill, which is not only content driven, but it's very thought driven and a philosophy driven, right? Constant learning without not for a need of getting any sort of degree or any sort of course or any sort of hurdle, but just on having a skill of learning being passed down to children is something which is very important. I think that was done in the past, I guess, centuries ago in terms of the Gurukul system and all of that. But somewhere we had to standardize the systems and processes due to industrial revolution, as you mentioned, and kind of lost that essence of how do we learn always, right? Having said that, skill of learning is so important, and that's so important for a sector such as ours, because we're a drone startup, and essentially what happens is when we go out on field, the possibilities are endless, right? When you have something just like any other field, we are in a green field kind of space. So literally every application, there's going to be a new platform, and there's going to be a lot of applications on the platform, and right from skilling of pilots on this particular platform, right? There's going to be a plethora of applications, and training these new generation pilots, new generation engineers, new generation consumers of this platform itself is a great bit of work. And the skill of learning is something which I think it's constantly we should focus on in the K-12 segment, right? And including the diploma segment of things, because we kind of, in most of the cases, practical skills in the diploma curriculum in India has to be revamped, and that amount of industrial experience have to be basically given. So I think through one of the things that we are doing internally as an organization is we are helping set up policy. I mean, other than policies, we are also helping diploma colleges, schools to basically train the next generation drone pilots, right? On field activities, how are they going to consume these drones and things like that. So this is going to increase the job availability for different sectors of the society, and just not focused on the most innovative sectors, right? Such as coding and things like that. We're also focusing on people who can get in the job skills that are required for the new age development, which is going to happen, right, for the next revolution as well.